Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Game Time podcast. We are back with some more content here for you guys today. We are talking all things NBA. We've got two NBA segments for you guys. I want to give you guys some love on the clips that we've been posting on YouTube Shorts. We're seeing a lot of great feedback with those clips. Some of the clips even got past 1,000 views. The Shadur Sanders clips got some views. Ramon's Will Howard pick got over 1,000 views, and even Daryl's getting some love with his Pacer stuff when it came to the defense. So we appreciate you guys and all the love you guys are showing on the clips and the YouTube. We've gained over 10 subscribers since starting the podcast, and we're hoping to keep climbing, trying to get closer and closer to 100. But fellas, it's time to talk NBA playoffs, and I get to pick where we want to start out, right? So we can start with the first round, right? I think the first round is where we left off of when we last talked about the first round. I think right before we ended that day, the Lakers played the Timberwolves and got eliminated. The Pacers kicked off game one against the Cavaliers, and that's where we left off. But we don't have to start with those two games. I don't think there's much to say about the Lakers, at least for me. We have to have a center, right? That's the biggest thing. We've got to get a center. And I think the issue will need to be addressed. But I think the looming issue as well that surrounds the Lakers is what is Luka's future with the Lakers? Will he re-sign? I think that is the other question mark as well. But there's not too much for me to say on the Lakers. And for me, it's really give props to Minnesota and what they're going to do. Obviously, they did not win against Golden State last night, and I'm curious to talk about that. But I do want to start with Indiana and Cleveland, right? Because I think that is where a lot of people are finally starting to recognize, okay, maybe we weren't giving the Pacers a lot of credit for that Eastern Conference Finals appearance last year, and they are now up 2-0 on Cleveland, heading back to Indiana. I don't got much to say, right? I think a lot of people, and shout out Celtics fans as well, have said this Pacers team is legit. I didn't think it was a fluke last year. I thought they were going to be fine, even though they started off very rough at the first half of the season. I told a lot of Pacer fans, other than Daryl, that this team was going to be fine. And they came out on the other side, and they had a great run after the All-Star break, and now they're up 2-0 on the best team in the league. And it kind of goes back to my point of where I said I don't really buy Cleveland as this NBA Finals appearance competitor. I never really bought them as that. I'm not going to say they're the 2015 Atlanta Hawks like everyone is saying on Twitter, but I did believe in the Pacers. I did have the Pacers winning this series, but I also could see the Cavs winning it in a 7-game series. But it's nice to see, not only being from Indiana, but just being a believer in this team all year, to see what they're doing right now, regardless of Cleveland injuries that everyone keeps bringing up. By the way, Garland could play on a toe injury, and the other player, I think it's Hunter, he could play on a thumb injury, but that is not the case. You play who's in front of you, it doesn't matter. I'll let the Pacers fan, I'll let the season ticket holder get his talking points through here.
For me, it's not real difficult, right? So the Pacers last year, went through the playoffs, just caught fire, right? Played hard, played well, had some good things happen their way. And then this season that came into November, it picked up kind of slow, right? You had Halliburton coming off of an Olympic summer that he didn't play a whole lot of. A lot of negative connotation about him with regard to how he played in the summer and Pacers wise. But here's what I'll say to all of that, right? It's not where you start, it's where you finish. As the season has gone on, the Pacers have gotten better and better. I chronicled that in one of the episodes when I talked about they finished last season at 27th in the league in defense. This year, I think if I remember right, they finished 13th. You cutting that in half. And on top of that, you've got players that you've got signed on deals right now. So you don't have your core up for any new deals other than Miles Turner. Now that's a big up for contract, of course, because he's your stretch five and he makes things work at around the paint on the defensive side. But with that said, in this series, and I got to give credit to my youngest son, the Tornado, Darren Matthew. He spoke to me about this about 3.5 weeks ago when we talked about the playoffs upcoming, and he says, I would love to see the Pacers as a 4 seed. They would beat Milwaukee handily, and they got a better chance with Cleveland because Cleveland doesn't have that championship DNA. We spoke last night, and nail right on the hammer right on the nail. We talked about that, and the thing about the Pacers was they weren't going to quit. Right throughout the whole game, they continued to fight, and Mark kept saying on the radio broadcast, because even though I'm here in Orlando, I was able to listen to the broadcast on the radio because I don't listen to ESPN and I don't watch ESPN, to be quite frank, unless there's a game in itself, if there's a football game. So when all those things happened, they were down 11 points at halftime, 14 going into the fourth quarter. At no time, if you're a person who's watching the game, thinking, "Hey, Cleveland's out of the woods," you saw them suck and win. They're covering full court on defense, which is amazing to me. Not sure why the coach did that. Remember, he's the coach of the year, and he's got a bench that's depleted, and his best player is going 94 feet full board, i.e. Dwayne Wade. And what do? You have your team pick up full court. That's not your DNA, coach. Sometimes coaches outthink themselves. And I think in that fourth quarter, as the game went on, they wore down. Take a look at that play where Pascal misses that free throw, and it looked as though Donovan Mitchell was holding on for life with Aaron Nesmith, and he didn't want him going to the basket, but he couldn't stop him, and he didn't have the legs. That's why that dunk happened. It should have been an and one, as a matter of fact. And then subsequently, you went in the game because they ran out of gas. At some point, you got to get to the gas station and fill back up. And if you got 8 players that you're playing, 9, because they did play 9, you got 8 players, core players that you're playing, and you're playing that hard against a team that's deep and continue to run. The biggest mistake I believe that coach made was having them pick up full court. What a poor decision, because he was playing in the moment, and he saw the turnovers that the Pacers had made in the first half. He thought, yeah, this is going to get us. What he should have done was rest those players when the proper time was there so they could have some legs in the fourth quarter. This was a coaching loss. This wasn't a player loss. This is on the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and maybe the coach of the year resides in Indiana, not in Cleveland, because Rick Carlisle said, I'm not calling the timeout. We're going to play through it. I'm going to put the ball in my best player's hand, and I'm going to let him win the game. And that was a big shot, and you had to hit the shot, but you got to give Rick Carlisle credit for allowing his players to play. This is not the Rick Carlisle of 3 years ago. He was a control freak, and he called 60% of the plays his first 2 years as coach of the players, as the Pacers. As an NBA coach, he let them play, and that's what allowed him to win the game. And I appreciate him being the person that can change, but the game is not over. It's 2-0. What you got?
I was just going to say, I have to give credit to Carlisle, too, because I was someone that said 2 years ago, this Pacers team can't get over the hump if Carlisle's the head coach. I said Carlisle was a great builder of teams, but he can't get them over the hump. But that's the only thing I got to throw in. I was completely wrong.
Yeah, and I was going to finish up just saying that, that's what happens, right? You have to be able to change, and he was able to do that. But with that said, it's 2-0, not 4-0. Yep. It takes 4 to win, not 2. So, Friday night's game, yes, I'll be there. And yes, I won't be able to talk come Saturday because I'm going to be pretty hoarse. But that's okay. I expect the Pacers to put their foot on their throats, injuries be damned, and leave out of the game Friday night 3-0. I'll pass over to my guy Ramon on that one.
By the way, good to have Ramon back on the pod. Good to have Ramon back for some NBA talk.
Check it out. Let's take a step back. I told y'all Jimmy Butler was going to do the Jimmy Butler thing, and then the Warriors are going to beat the Rockets. I called that. I said that. Hold on. I ain't through. I told y'all that the Clippers was going to be the Clippers, and no matter who on the team, they're going to lose. Remember, I said the Clippers going to clip. Boom.
Jalen Green had 12 points.
The Clippers going to clip all the time. Then the Lakers and the Timberwolves. You said the Lakers need a rim protector. Man, they need 3 things. A rim protector, a coach protector. They need to get rid of him and get somebody else because he coached like high school kids. And the problem ain't really – the problem we think is Luka. The problem is LeBron. I was like, his points and what he does statistically doesn't bring anything to the game. It's meaningless now. He does not affect the game. And if he's your focal point, your center point, he's not the winning ingredients anymore. So those are three things you got to address. What you gonna do with LeBron? What you gonna do with Bron's coach? And how you gonna find somebody to protect the rim? All right. Now let's talk about that Thunder Grizzly. Man, I told y'all that you can't win with Ja. Period. But I think he got hurt. So you can't win without him either. You just can't win. They need to blow that up. All right. Hop back on over to the East. I told y'all that the Knicks was going to beat the Pistons because of them dudes they brought in. I kept telling y'all that. And what happened? Voila. The Knicks won. Up. The Celtics and the Magic. That was an easy one, but one of the three of us kept talking about the Magic. I mean, like they was going to win. Yeah, raise your hand.
I said it'd be tough. I said it would be tough.
I won't call your name. Yeah, it was tough, all right. Tough. 4-1 tough. All right. The Pacers Bucks. I said the best player and the best team. And it showed. The Pacers were the best team. And then everyone knew the Cavs was going to beat the Heat. All right, so now we caught up on my genius. Let's talk about these other games. All right.
I may have to come back for the Lakers, though.
I got to pause for a second. Ramon, you could not have done that any better.
Yeah.
You scripted this. Yeah. I love your smoke, man. Bring the smoke. I love it.
I'm going to have to come back for the Lakers one, just for a second. But I'll let you go.
Now we're talking about the Timberwolves and the Warriors. Yeah, Steph hurt. It don't make a difference. Let me tell you why it does not make a difference. People are lucky that Jimmy Butler wasn't on the Warriors years ago. It'd be a dynasty. Man, the camaraderie, the love for your brother that he brings to that team. The Saginaw Valley Strangler loves him. Buddy loves him. He's Buddy's big brother. He follows him around like, man, dude, thank you for coming. I mean, they sit in interviews together and go back and forth. Well, he said one time, talking about Batman and Robin and call him Alfred or something like that. Man, the dude, their camaraderie is crazy. That's going to be the problem with Minnesota. You can't beat a team that's talented and love each other. That's hard. They're very talented and love each other. Man, if they hold on tight till the beige bomber comes back, man, it's going to be over. All right. Thunder Nuggets. We're watching a talented team playing some good old heads. It's like basketball court back in the day. You look out, you see all these young Thundercats who are really good playing all these dads who used to be good, but the dads are still winning. They just know how to win. They just know how to beat young kids. They're champions. All right. That Knicks Celtics is going to be crazy because the Celtics are the best team, period. But they are the most arrogant group of people, meaning that they won't change at all. They won't adjust at all. If what we do isn't working, we still going to do it. And if we lose and catch them next game. So if they don't, you shoot a lot of threes. Good. You make a lot of threes. Good. But the data is not working. Do something else. Because that's what great teams do. Great teams adjust. And they adjust quickly. And good teams just do what they do. And whatever the outcome is the outcome. But I'm going to still go with the Celtics on that because I just don't know if the Knicks got enough firepower. That Pacers Cavalier series is crazy. Now, let's talk about my man Garland and that big toe injury. I know some talking heads on TV that talk like that big toe injury is not bad. I don't know the extent of that big toe injury, but I remember when my college teammate had a big toe injury, he couldn't explode. It hurt him bad. I remember when Marshall Faulk had a big toe injury, shut him down for a long time. And if it's the left big toe and he's a right-handed player, anytime he pushes off and drives, there could be some problems. So I wouldn't be shocked if he sits out even more or longer. because that big toe can really affect you. I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't shoot that darn thing up with cortisone and some other Toradol and other things like that, because they can't go down 3-0. And guess what? They're going down 3-0 when they come back here. All right. Indiana is dangerous for a couple different reasons, and I'll be brief with why they're dangerous. 3 things, 3 points. They like each other. They like playing with each other. And that whole team was offended when they said Hallie was overrated. It wasn't just Hallie. It wasn't just his dad. The team was offended. The coach was offended. When you get everybody offended, you play a little different. That's the first thing. Those 11 or 12 people who voted that opened up their mouth, Milwaukee and the Cavaliers should fly to wherever them 12 players are and beat the brakes off of them, because they gave this team some motivation. 2, they can score the basketball with anybody. And they can score it in transition. They can score it in half court. They can get to the mid-range. They can get to the bucket, and they can shoot the 3. All 3 levels, and they share the ball, dangerous. Real dangerous. So that's 1. That's 2. And the third one is the one that people don't talk about. They may not be great individually defensively, but they play good team defense. They can get a stop. They can get a board. And when they're on that string playing team defense together, and the way they score, and the way that light-skinned point guard who's overrated don't turn the ball over, trouble. The end.
All right. I guess I'm back up, so I gotta hit a couple things. Everyone have their speed. I like to open it because obviously I open the show, so I don't like to start first and go on and hit every series. So I guess I gotta spin back to the Lakers thing, right? I guess that makes the most sense to do. And Ramon, I don't disagree with you, right? I said off the pod, I said I think Reddick coached his worst. This was the worst I've seen him coach all year. I was very quiet when we hired Reddick because I didn't know how to feel about it, right? I'm like, I kind of, when we hired him, I went through the positives and negatives, right? I know he knows basketball, right? He's a junkie, you could say. He loves the game and he's played, right? He knows LeBron. I think the negatives is he's a first-year head coach. He's never really coached before since then. This is his first real time. And for the first year to get us to the 3 seed and get us to where we got, it's hard for me to be like, it's time to overreact and boot him, right? So I think for me right now, it was his first playoffs. It was a horribly coached playoffs. I won't sit here and argue that. It was a horribly coached playoffs. And whether we didn't have a center or not, we should have won one of those games. We should have won maybe 2 of those games. But I definitely think we should have won one of them. And one of those games is the one where we have the starters play the whole second half. That's unacceptable. You can't do that. I don't know what was going through the mindset of JJ Reddick, but that is unacceptable as a head coach. Dalton Connect didn't play any minutes. Jackson Hayes didn't play any minutes. Jared Vanderbilt kept getting 15 minutes a game when I think he should have been out there more when you look at how much we struggle on the defensive side of the ball. But I think for Reddick, I think he'll get better in the playoffs now that we're in this situation again. I'm not going to say the center was the be-all, end-all because I think you made a good point. There's multiple points as to why this team did not play well, and I think that was one of them right there, was the center and then Reddick's coaching. But I think Reddick's coaching will get better as time goes on. And I think the regular season is a good way to show that he's not a bad coach. I think for his first playoffs, he just got a little antsy, a little jittery, a little nervous. And for me, out of all the games I've watched this year, which was a good amount, that was the worst I've seen him coach since, I want to say, the game against Phoenix early in the year. And that was in like November, December.
Let me share a little bit on that, right? I hear you talking about JJ Reddick, and his mistakes. You talking about Jackson Hayes not playing, Dalton Connect not playing. Give Minnesota some credit, man.
No, I agree. I said it in my first little monologue there.
They got men over there, and you talking about Ant, who I'm not a big fan of Ant because of the histrionics, right? But they play ball, man. And you could have a center, you can have a power forward, wherever you want. But if the other team across the line is better than you, you're going to probably lose. Coaching be damned. And in this case, now I'm not going to say he was out coached. He was outclassed because he showed. Think about this: Jackson Hayes played 23 minutes a game, in the second half of the season. 23 minutes a game. Tell me how many minutes Jackson Hayes played in the whole series. He didn't play 23 in the whole series.
It's ridiculous.
That's arrogance. That's not bad coaching. That's arrogance. I'm going to tell you why. I listen to Eddie Johnson on XM86, who I love, Jump Shot Eddie, who was a former Pacer for a couple of years in the late 90s. Eddie Johnson said, I know Jackson Hayes, and I know he's willing to speak up and say something to the coach when it may not be the most popular thing to do. And I know that JJ Reddick is sensitive. And I believe that something happened in that locker room that he says, I'm going to show you and I'm not going to play you. If that, in fact, is the case, JJ Reddick needs to have his ass out of LA on the first train smoking, because it's not about you. It's about the team. That's all we ever hear talk about. It's about the team. It's about us and we. And if you're going to personalize a relationship with a player, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying I'm listening to Jump Shot Eddie, right? And if he did that, that's an absolute failure as a coach, failure as a human being. And yeah, I say get rid of him, because what you did, you put your team in peril because of your personal feelings. Who says he won't do it next year or the year after, or if he doesn't get a guy he wants? They had the opportunity, Isaiah. They had the guy in their building. They failed his physical because of cold feet, buyer's remorse. So I don't want to hear the excuses from it was all on JJ Red. No, they failed themselves because they failed themselves because they got buyer's remorse. And you know what buyer's remorse is? You see that shiny new car, it looks great, it smells great. Then you get all your paperwork, you drive it home, you look at your contract. Goodness, I'm going to wind up paying in today's market $60,000 for this. That's buyer's remorse. They had it, they showed it, and they failed. So Lakers don't deserve any more time because they failed, and they're not playing right now, and they lost to a better team. And that's what I'm saying. They lost to a better team. You know, I agree. I'm not bringing nothing to do, zero to do with Bron. This is about the Lakers, right? They lost to a better team.
I agree. I think the Mark Williams trade I agree. They should have kept Mark Williams, because not only that, you hurt Dalton Connect's confidence, who was really playing well for this team that whole first half of the year, and then you choose to get rid of him. But I think with the Reddick Jackson Hayes things, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, Hayes isn't going to be back either way it goes. And the Reddick thing could definitely be an issue if it is an issue. But like you said, you're just hearing what you're hearing. For me, I'm not gonna.
But that's a trustable. So, well, hold on. This is
I agree. I'm just saying I'm not gonna panic yet.
This isn't some hater. This is a guy who's locked into the NBA.
No, I agree.
This is a 18-year veteran.
Yeah,
who knows the game? Who's a TV guy for the Phoenix Suns in the West, and Eddie, the ex-player that's tied in and locked in is Eddie Johnson. So we can't skirt past that. You can't skirt past it because you're a fan. It's the fact.
I'm not.
And Jackson Hayes leaves, right? Okay. Someone else comes in. Who's to say that JJ Reddick doesn't do the same thing? So that's what I'm saying. It's about your emotional intelligence. He talks about how intelligent he is. He went to Duke. He showed no emotional intelligence when it came to a situation with a player. You can't tell me, well, he felt Jackson Hayes wasn't going to be a better player on the court. It had to be something internal. It couldn't be physical because he played 23 minutes a game in the regular season. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's 6 minutes a quarter. How many quarters in the game? 4. That means half of every quarter Jackson Hayes is playing. So yes, there's something to that. But the point is, I don't know why the hell I'm still talking about the Lakers. I'm done. No more talk about the Lakers. I'm done. You can cancel another topic. I'll sit back and relax. I'm done talking about the Lakers.
I'm taking one more swing because I got a bump, baby. I'm taking one more punch. That coach, JJ, people talk about the regular season. That third seed had nothing to do with him, because prior to the scapegoat out of Dallas getting there, they were like, what, 11th seed or something like that, a play-in candidate, 10 or somewhere around there. And then here comes this big guy, overweight, out of shape. He's the reason we lost the playoffs. Who took them to the 3rd seed? Let's be real. Because at first, before he got there, we was talking about play-in games with the Lakers. But the out-of-shape guy moved the needle. Now, JJ, he coaches like a player, like he's still playing. That move with 5 players playing the whole half was a player making a decision. I'm going with my 5, and we're going to turn this around. That sounds like something I've heard in huddles that I hear with old heads that play. This is my team. I'm riding with my boys. He wasn't acting like a coach. When the bullets start firing, it started getting hot, he fell back in the player mode instead of coach mode. He didn't make adjustments. He didn't become strategic. And if what is rumored about Jackson Hayes is true, then he completely fell back into player mode in all aspects of the game. And to me, that's a problem. And I think the bigger problem is he hasn't worked as a coach on no level. Forget the middle school girls basketball. You ain't never been an assistant nowhere. You ain't never been a head nowhere else. You just jumped into this franchise. And make no mistake, this franchise ain't got time for you to get good. It's the Lakers. You got to be good. You got to come in good. If you want to get good, go coach at Memphis. But this is the Lakers. All right? And the other mistake he made, he ain't played Bronny enough. Oh, man, my bad. No. I'm done.
Well, why did I know that was coming, right? We can't have a podcast without a 5-second Bronny interlude. So, hey.
Dude, if I was JJ, I would have played Bronny more, and I'd have talked to the commissioner and asked him, could I bring in Shedeur Sanders to play?
Hey, you see Isaiah's face? You see how he's like, man, stop clowning my guys, man. Y'all
I'm
hurt
not,
me.
no, hold on. Well, I was coming back. I had to pull something up. So, first of all, the Lakers were not in the play-in. Before the trade, they were 5th in the West. And with even when we got to the end of the playoffs, it was like a 3-game separation from 3rd all the way down to the play-in. But they still came out with the 3rd seed. I'm not saying the Hayes stuff isn't true, but I'm also not going to sit here and put one issue on. I'm not going to make this one issue be like, oh, he has to leave. Because there's been we've seen issues happen all the time and they get figured out.
Who made the decision to sit in?
I'm not saying
player.
Belichick sat Malcolm Butler.
We're talking like no.
Okay, but I'm just saying there's other situations where this stuff has happened and it was a one-time incident.
We're talking basketball. We're not talking Belichick.
But there's incidents in basketball where that's happened as well.
You know what you just did? You just compared Belichick to this guy who's never done a
I'm not okay, but still, the point is, we've had situations where this has happened in the past, and it hasn't affected a coach or an organization.
Stop with the deflection. You can't pivot somewhere else. You brought the Lakers. We did. So we got to stay on the Lakers, and they failed. They failed. I
realize they failed. I'm just saying that I don't think this situation is the reason Reddick has to go, though.
But you know what? As a person who's not a Laker fan, I'd probably prefer them to keep him. Because that helps the other teams, because he's an emotional whore is what he is. He's an emotional rant. How many, since we're talking about, how many press conferences did he walk out of sassing? He didn't like the question. Being an ex-media member, he didn't like the question. He sashayed his ass out of there. So you tell me, that's what he did. Ex-media member, Duke player, smartest guy in the room, walked out because it got tough. So what do you think he's going to do with his players when it gets tough? Ask Jackson Hayes. So you want to talk about the Lakers? Let's talk about it. So now what do? You go into the offseason. You don't have any cap flexibility. Every media outlet saying Giannis is coming, Jalen Green is coming, Ja's coming. They ain't coming. Lock the door. It ain't matter. They ain't coming. So now what are you going to do come November? As a Laker fan, as you tell us, what do the Lakers do to put them in a position to be successful? And I'm talking about from a championship perspective.
I mean, you got to get a center. I mean, that's the first thing you got to address is the center position.
You had one.
I understand. I'm not disagreeing with you. I realize we had one. That's not.
You had it.
Mark,
what are you going to do now?
Why are we're giving Mark Williams credit for the back half of the year where they knew they weren't going to go to the playoffs anyways, and now we're like, oh, he was healthy, so the late. He was hurt for the most of his career.
He wasn't hurt. He played.
Okay, congrats. He wasn't hurt for this one time. He's been hurt multiple times leading up to this.
How many games did Mark Williams play last season?
It does. He's been hurt before this.
It does matter. What are you talking about? This is this season you're talking about. You're not talking 3 years ago. You know what I was able to do that 3 years ago?
You were consistent
I was able
for
to do a
1 year.
backflip 3 years ago.
You were consistent for 1 year. That's great. That just because you were consistent for 1 year does not mean you're going to be consistent going forward.
You say consistent. I didn't. I said how many games did Mark Williams play last year?
I don't have it on me. I can look.
I'm gonna look. Keep on talking. I'm gonna look it up.
Well, we've got 2 minutes left for this segment. We'll end this one and we'll go to the end of the next segment with the Mark Williams answer, and then we will go into the other series as well. We'll be back in just a second for the second segment here on the Game Time Pod. I think we finally got to a point where things are starting to heat up a little bit.
I love this. I'm all that.
All right, we'll be back in just a second.